Geopolitics usually moves at a glacial pace, right? But every now and then, things shift so incredibly fast that it literally gives the entire world geopolitical whiplash. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most drastic and unexpected diplomatic pivots in modern history, the situation on the Korean Peninsula between 2017 and 2018. Picture this. It's 2017 and the world is legitimately bracing for the worst. North Korea had just conducted 23 missile tests, and the rhetoric flying back and forth was incredibly hostile. But then, fast forward just a few months into early 2018, and suddenly we see North and South Korean athletes laughing together, hugging, and competing side by side on a unified women's ice hockey team at the Winter Olympics. Like, how on earth do we get from the brink of a nuclear conflict to a joint Olympic team in the blink of an eye?
To figure out exactly how this happened, we're going to unpack a really fascinating academic thesis from Stockholm University by Marianne Nymark. This paper deeply investigates the relationship between the two Koreas, and it asks a surprisingly profound question. Can playing sports together actually stop a war? We're going to use this research to break down what happened and, more importantly, why it matters.
All right, let's get into part one, the 2018 Olympic surprise, going from missiles to medals.
To really grasp the magnitude of this shift, we have to look at just how terrifying the escalation in 2017 actually was. We're not just talking about harsh words here. North Korea fired 23 missiles over the course of that year alone. We also saw dramatic, high-stakes defections of North Korean soldiers scrambling across the DMZ under gunfire. The international community was understandably on edge. In fact, American experts at the time were predicting a 25 to 50% risk of actual war breaking out. The stakes were absolutely massive.
And the timeline of this shift, it was incredibly compressed. Back in June of 2017, South Korean President Moon Jae-in actually proposed a joint Olympic hockey team. But North Korea initially rejected it, basically saying there wasn't enough time and that sports shouldn't be political. Things just kept escalating, peaking with a major ICBM test in November. But then, an absolute shocker. On January 1st, 2018, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un used his New Year speech to declare he was actually open to talks. And incredibly, just a month later, that unified Olympic team was a reality, walking into the stadium together.
Which brings us to Section 2, the spillover effect, or what we can call the academic mystery.
So, the crucial piece to understanding all of this is a concept known as the spillover effect. It's a term from neo-functionalist theory, and the idea is simple but super powerful. Basically, if two rival nations can just figure out how to cooperate in a low-stakes, non-political area, like sports, art, or welfare, they start to build trust. Think of it like breaking the ice with a difficult neighbor by sharing a lawnmower. That trust theoretically bleeds over, or spills over, into higher-level politics. Suddenly, you're not just coordinating hockey practices anymore, you're coordinating military de-escalation.
But you might be wondering, why sports? Well, think about the last time you watched the Olympics. Hosting these mega sporting events is a huge deal. It allows a country to massively improve its national image, showcase its economic development, and, crucially, improve relations with rival nations on a totally neutral, internationally televised stage. It's really an unparalleled opportunity to present your political narrative to the entire globe.
Let's jump to Section 3. 1988, Sabotage and Division, the failed experiment.
To really test this theory out, we have to go back 30 years. When South Korea won the bid to host the 1988 Olympics, their goal was to boost their global image after a period of political transition. Well, in response, North Korea aggressively demanded co-hosting rights. They wanted a full third of all the Olympic events to be held in Pyongyang. The International Olympic Committee and South Korea did offer a few events, but a one-third split was just unrealistic, and negotiations completely fell apart.
And when that diplomacy failed, the outcome was incredibly dark. North Korea resorted to sabotage to scare away tourists and athletes. A bomb went off at a Seoul airport, and then, tragically, a Korean Airlines flight KL-858 was bombed, killing all 115 people on board. Kim Hyun-hui, the North Korean agent who planted the bomb, later explicitly stated that she received the assignment directly on the order of the top leadership, specifically to hinder the upcoming 1988 Seoul Olympic Games. So, put these two South Korean Olympics side by side. In 1988, you have failed negotiations resulting in boycotts, violence, and zero cooperation. But 30 years later, in 2018, the outcome was a joint team, delayed military drills, and high-level diplomacy. The source material emphasizes that cooperation in sports is definitely possible, but it really only happens when the broader political circumstances are favorable.
All right, moving into Section 4, competing under one flag and the beginning of the thaw. Following the tragedy of the 1988 Olympics, South Korea implemented a policy called Nordpolitik, aimed at easing relations. And surprisingly, it worked. By 1991, we saw the very first incredible success of sports diplomacy between the two nations. At the 41st World Table Tennis Championship in Japan, the Koreas competed as one unified team. And against all odds, they pulled off an absolute miracle. They defeated the undefeated, 8-time world champion team from China. It was a massive, highly emotional victory that proved they could achieve greatness together.
That success really paved the way for the Sunshine Policy era of the 2000s, which was all about active cooperation. And during this period, an incredibly powerful new symbol was born on the world stage, the unification flag. Athletes from both North and South Korea marched together under this single neutral flag at the opening ceremonies of the 2000 Sydney Olympics, the 2002 Busan Asian Games, the 2004 Athens Olympics, and the 2006 Turin Winter Olympics. It became this powerful, recurring symbol of hope.
Which leads us to our final section, Section 5. Does sports diplomacy actually work? Let's look at the real outcomes. Because the 2018 Olympics weren't just for show, they resulted in massive, tangible political outcomes right away. Immediately following the Games, a direct hotline was established between the heads of state. A historic third inter-Korean summit was held. North Korea actually opened up to denuclearization talks and paused their nuclear and ballistic missile tests. According to the academic theory we discussed, this is the literal definition of the spillover effect in action. Sports directly paving the way for high-level security talks.
But, and this is a big but, our source draws a very important measured conclusion. While these one-off sporting events carry immense symbolic weight, they have a ceiling. If a joint team only happens once a decade, the political momentum just stalls out. The thesis concludes that for sports diplomacy to be truly effective and lead to deep integration, these can't just be one-time spectacles. They have to lead to regular, ongoing, everyday contacts between the citizens and institutions of both nations.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. When you see rival nations competing together under one flag, is it the foundation of lasting peace, or is it just temporary, beautifully orchestrated political theater? The history of the Korean Peninsula shows us it can kind of be a bit of both. It proves that a hockey puck or a ping-pong paddle can absolutely open doors that armies cannot, but ultimately, it's entirely up to the politicians to decide whether they want to walk through them. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.